location of birth or traditions? Well, I get that at first these questions sound both weird and unrelated, but let me explain why they are. I was really young when I first started thinking about this, but honestly, it wasn't my choice. And this is how everything started. Where are you from? I was 5 years old when a friend of my dad asked me this question. I, without a doubt, just like any 5-year-old, said, Sochomeli Tbilisi. Meaning I'm both from Sukhumi and Tbilisi. To my answer, he at first laughed and then he hugged me. Weird, right? But that became part of the ritual. Every time I was surrounded with my parents' friend group, I was asked the same question over and over again. People either smiled or told me that I was a good girl, while my parents were proud of me. But growing up, this reaction seemed unnecessary and weird because all I did was simply answer the question. Well, I don't know how many to remember the billboard near Natachtai Highway saying, "Remember Abkhazia." But seeing this billboard made me feel remorse. Abkhazia for my family is something very pure, something I had to become part of. But seeing this billboard made me realize that I had to convince myself that I remembered Abkhazia. Well, how could I not? After all, I am from Sukhumi. But over time, more taboo and more mystical Abkhazia became, farther I felt from it. Last year, I met a researcher who asked me where I was from. I shrugged my shoulders and with doubt answered, I am from Sukhumi. And after a small pause, I sighed. But to be honest, I don't even remember why I'm from there anymore. He himself is from Abkhazia, and my answer didn't seem to surprise him. He even told me that the question was properly asked. And that is when I started thinking about what actually shapes our identity. Is it the place of birth? I will not bore you talking about how brutal the war was. Everyone knows that Russia occupied Abkhazia. A lot of people had to leave their homes, many lost their loved ones, including my parents. But the thing is, the war didn't only affect them, it also affected me. It stole my childhood. How? Well, how many of you have never been to your parents' house? How many of you have never been able to spend a day in a house where your mom grew up? Because I haven't. And that resulted in me imagining my own Sukhumi, creating my own Sukhumi. Growing up, the image of Sukhumi was painted so perfectly for me that every time it became my escape. Every time, or any time I didn't like something in my life, I'd say, well, Sukhumi is different. People living there are different. When I go back home, everything will be perfect. This utopian image I so desperately wanted to be real became the reason of me feeling like I was trapped in the city where I didn't belong. This is the image I looked at for the most part of my childhood, which I thought was perfect. This is my mom's house. Isn't it perfect? Well, I know there is no picture because it doesn't exist. It only exists in my imagination and in the memory of my grandparents and my mom. If you ask me if I had a chance to spend at least a day there and understand my mom better, well, at this point you might also think, why is it necessary to spend your time listening to me talk about myself? But if you ask me, I'm not talking only about myself. This part of history made me realize that our identities are not formed only by the location of birth, but also is shaped by the memory of generations. Memory which was passed to me, which I have to pass on. I remember well, as I said, this war also affected me. And my parents' lives, their roots, my roots, has played a significant role in shaping who I am. How? Think of your personality traits as colors a painter can use. The medium you paint on is a culture you belong. Though I was born and raised in Tbilisi, on my canvas I paint two colors. One of them is imagination of my homeland, and another one is the reality I live in. I remember for the most part of my childhood, in the end of September, just like everyone else, my class would go to excursions. September 27th especially. I remember this day was always stressful and emotional for my family, especially stressful, because that is the day of Fall of Sukhumi. That was the day I was supposed to be there, standing next to my parents, sharing their pain, finding out more about my history. That is the day that still recuts the scars of the people and bleeds like raw injury. And that coincided with a day of happiness and joy for my classmates. My friends, knowing how much I wanted to go to that excursion, they kept calling me, telling me how everything went. But I couldn't go because I had to be there with my parents, and I was there with my parents. But at the moment, I was in between sorrow of my parents and joy of my classmates. Well, that is called duality, and that has been part of my life ever since I remember. But the thing is, I wasn't alone. There, right next to me, were standing children who were waiting to run away, waiting to have fun, but they couldn't because of what they were taught or told by their parents. When I read Khalid Hosseini's The Kite Runner, I found out that he was 11 years old when he left home and was 15 years old when his family moved to USA. He's an Afghan-American novelist and physician. He was welcomed in USA and has his strong reputation. But what he does is he keeps writing about his memories of his homeland. He keeps basing his future on his past, just like my parents. And with that, with my example, I want to conclusion that roots cannot be forgotten. And believe me, this are not some pathetic words. When I first saw Guguli Maghraja's movie, The Roots, I cried. Well, the emotion got past me. But now with realization, I agree with the main character teaching his grandson that the size of the tree is measured by the length of its roots. And according to Georgian poet Chargeishvili, the mind and heart are brothers. So you need to take both of them into consideration. And when I do, when I take both aspects into consideration, I end up being a girl who is from the city she has never been to, which she is emotionally touched, which continues to smell like joy of her parents. Thank you for your attention.